So guys, today I'm going to share all my passwords with you. The only challenge is you have to remember 50 of my passwords and tell them back to me. Do you think is it possible? I'm sure it's not possible, right? The exact same thing happens when you work with Oracle Multi-Tenant database because you have container databases, you have pluggable databases, and now when you add Golden Gate, so you have multiple users in multiple containers, and then you need to connect to those specific users, containers from Golden Gate, that's ggsci, and you need to remember all those passwords. All right, I'm connected to one of my test servers, and this is a container database which is Oracle 21c version. And let us check the PDBs that we have. So we have only one PDB. Now in real time, you might have more PDBs. So let's look at the traditional method of logging into the database from Golden Gate. Let's get into the Golden Gate home and let's start ggsci. So I already have this Golden Gate setup up and running. If I just issue info all, we have all these test processes, but these are abandoned because I just rebooted the server. When you're working with Golden Gate, from Golden Gate instance, you need to connect to the particular database because your server might have more databases, right? In my test server, we only have one container database, which means the Golden Gate needs to log into this particular database so that you can actually add extract, pump, or replicate. Let's log into the container database that we have, dblogin, user ID. We already have a common user, that's ggadmin, and we give the TNS connection, which is at, this is my AKS01 underscore CDB is the connection name that connects directly to the container database. Type the password of the common user. And this way you can see we are successfully logged into the database, that's CDB $root. This was very easy because you had to connect to only one container database. But what if your environment has a lot of containers, a lot of pluggable databases? How do you remember all those user IDs and passwords? That's where Golden Gate Credential Store comes for your rescue. The beauty about Golden Gate Credential Store is it will store all your credentials and you don't even need to remember the passwords, or you don't even have to share those passwords with anyone. Not even you have to mention those passwords into the parameter files of extract, pump, or replicate. You simply add those credentials and just use them anywhere. Simply type info credential store, hit enter, and if you see an error unable to open credential store, which means credential store is not set for this Golden Gate instance. Let us go ahead and add credential store, and this will add the credential store, but this is just like creating a wallet. We need to add credentials to this store. So let us start by saving the credential of my ggadmin user, that's the common user, which by default connects to the AKS01 underscore the container database, that's CDB. The way we add a new credential to the credential store is by alter credential store add user command. This command will add this common user ggadmin, which actually connects to AKS01 underscore CDB. And this is the magic. We have an alias name. This is the name that you will use going forward to connect to the ggadmin, particularly to the container database on AKS01 server. So this alias name is anything that you can give that's easy for you to remember. And this is what we are going to use for our test. Give the user password. And this credential is already stored into our credential store. All right, this was very easy. You simply add a credential store to your Golden Gate installation and then add as many user aliases as you want. Now the question is, how do I use this user alias to actually log into the database? So let's exit from the Golden Gate and let me connect back to ggsci once again. The way you connect to the database from Golden Gate is by giving dblogin, and this time instead of user ID, we will be using user ID alias, and you give the exact alias name ggadmin_cdb, hit enter and see what happens. I am successfully logged into the database as $root, which means I don't even need to remember the username. I don't need to remember which database I need to connect, and I don't even need to give the password. Now that was so simple to log into the database using the DB login. What if I want to know how many credentials are stored inside the credential store? By simply giving info credential store, this will show you all the credentials which are already stored inside the credential store. You can see we have our alias ggadmin_cdb, and you can even see the user ID, which is our common user ggadmin at, you can see the server name _cdb. That's my TNS connection name. All right, now the big question is, what if the ggadmin user changes its password? Which definitely means that we need to update the Golden Gate Credential Store to reflect the new password. Otherwise, your credential store would reflect the old password, but the user has already changed to a new password. So how do we replace the user password inside credential store? So let's connect to the database and try to change the password for the ggadmin user. Let's go ahead and update the Golden Gate Credential Store and start ggsci. Now this time let me log into the database and see whether ggadmin old credential store works or not. Of course it won't work because we have already updated the password, right? But let's give it a try. So let's give dblogin user ID alias ggadmin_cdb, hit enter, and what do you see? Failed to connect to the database. Why? Because the user password has been updated inside the database, but the Golden Gate Credential Store is not yet updated. How do we go ahead and change or update the password for ggadmin user inside our Golden Gate Credential Store? The simple command is alter credential store, replace user ggadmin, which is our common user, at the connection name, which is our server name _cdb, alias, that is ggadmin_cdb. You got to keep the alias name exactly same, then only it will update the password. This time give the updated password. In our case it is PASSW00RD. Enter, and credential store is altered, which means now if I try to log into the database using the user ID alias, and it will connect to the root container database. Now that you know the power of Golden Gate Credential Store, it's so easy to store all your passwords for all your different containers and for different databases that you have on one single server. It's very easy. You simply add the credential, and if there is a change in the password, you simply update the password inside Golden Gate Credential Store. This is awesome. But how do you use these aliases inside your parameter files? See, you have extract, pump, and replicate parameter files, right? So is there a way I can use these aliases inside these parameter files so that it simplifies my life and I don't need to remember the passwords or type the passwords in the parameter files? Let's check it. All right, I'm connected to the Golden Gate instance and I just started the manager process. Now let us go ahead and edit the parameter file for the extract, which is ext1. You can see we have the user ID, which is our common user ggadmin at the server connection name, and you can also see the password, which means it's a security threat. Anyone can open the parameter file, can see the username, the connection string, and also see the password of the admin user. At this stage, we can simply edit the parameter file, and rather than specifying the user ID, we will give user ID alias and specify ggadmin_cdb, which already stores the user ID, the connection string, and also the password of the particular database. Simply save and close, and let us start ext1. Let's check info all, and you can see our ext1 process is running. So with this way, guys, even if you have hundreds of databases, your Golden Gate Credential Store, it will automatically store all the user ID, passwords, aliases. It actually simplifies your life. So let me tell you which all places you can use the Credential Store. Whenever you are trying to connect to the database or logging into the database from the Golden Gate instance, that's where you can use dblogin. Next is in the parameter files. You can use the user ID alias in the extract, pump, and replicate parameter files. And also all the places where you need to log in to the database, you can use the Golden Gate Credential Store. But what if out of those 100 credentials that you store inside the Credential Store, you would like to delete one of the users? Info Credential Store. We can see we have an ggadmin_cdb credential which is already stored. Now, how do I remove this alias? With alter credential store delete user ggadmin_cdb, this would actually remove the credential from the credential store. Let us verify the information once again, and we can see no information found in the credential store. And finally, if you would like to disable the credential store, simply issue delete credential store, and your credential store is completely removed from your Golden Gate instance. I'm sure you would never want to delete the credential store because it simplifies your life. It stores all your credentials, all the user information, all the database connections, and also your passwords. I don't see any reason that you would need to ever delete Golden Gate Credential Store. But I can promise, if you are not using Golden Gate Credential Store, you would definitely would like to start using it so that it simplifies your life.